Well, first of all, thank you very much, Ollie, for joining us, OB, as we like to call you. Or we should maybe call you Mr. Hollywood. You're the only guest so far that's been, how late was he? 15 minutes?
Hey,
give or take.
don't change the habit of a lifetime, eh?
Yeah. His driver was late picking him up. Yeah, he's getting the new lamp. Well, first of all, thank you, mate. Appreciate the time. I know you're a very, very busy man. So, look, keen to kind of go a little bit back, maybe 10, 15 plus years, will be kind, to like, you know, when you were at school and where you grew up. So yeah, I'm keen to learn a bit more about you. Obviously, you and I have been mates for what, about 10 years or so, give or take, I think. Yeah. So I'm keen to go a little bit before that. I've known you that time, which has been funny and crazy and everything in between. So take us back a little bit to school. How did you enjoy it? Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
It was interesting, actually, because so I was born in the UK. I was born in Devon, in a place called Exeter. I lived there for a number of years, but at the age of 10, I moved to the US. So a little bit of a strange one. My mum woke me up one day, came into the room. It's like, hey, I've had a prophecy from God. We need to move to the US.
Fucking hell.
I was like, where in the US? She goes to Kansas City, Missouri. So right in the Bible Belt.
Right. Okay.
So at that point in time, my mum was training to be an ordained minister, and we ended up moving and relocating to the United States. Oh, wow. So that was at the age of 10. So I did junior high and high school and further education in the United States, Kansas City, Missouri. What an experience that was! It was a little bit like watching an episode out of American Pie.
Which episode?
We'll leave that one.
And so when did you come back to were you in the US then for like the majority of your like high school years then?
Yeah, so I did high school out there, and as you know, in the US they've got a big emphasis on sports as well as education. So I played soccer, did all the state championships thing, which is a great experience, right? I wish we could see some of that into the UK and wider European education sector, because I think one of the things that's really unique about the US, outside of all of the downsides and everything else that we see in the news at the moment, is their ethos around work hard, play hard, and also then looking at that outside of just working and education, but into kind of the sports arena. So yeah, played football or soccer, as they like to call it, in high school. We had a pretty good standard, and then when I was finished with education, I decided to move back to the UK. I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't my decision to move there. All of my family outside of my mum and alike were in the UK, so I decided to move back and start my career.
Interesting. And did you go to college or uni in the UK when you'd left school?
Yes, so I started doing Open University. Didn't do a dedicated university course or anything after high school. I actually moved from the US to Costa Rica. So I helped volunteer and build a school out in Costa Rica. So stayed there Monday to Friday, and then at the weekends you had your free time to go and explore around Central and South America, and that was a pretty awesome experience.
I bet. And so when you got back to UK, so did you then just kind of from a relatively young age start working and kind of going into full-time work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you remember Monster?
The kind of job, the CV kind of job company.
Yeah. So when I left Costa Rica, I moved back to the UK and ended up in Reading. My old man's born and bred in Reading. Moved in with him, as you do in your early 20s.
Yeah.
So I found my footing, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do at that point in time. Mm-hmm. I knew I had an affiliation with sales, marketing, people, etc. You know me as our friendship, social butterfly, etc. So to be honest with you, I wrote this CV. ChatGPT didn't exist back then, so it was fully hand created, and just stuck this the CV on Monster.com. and got a response from a software company called Quest Software,
Right.
and that's where my journey began, really.
Unreal. And what kind of age were you then when you started in software?
Early 20s, 2021, something along those lines.
Amazing. And obviously, you know, those who know you, you've obviously done incredibly well. Now VP of Commercial at Wire. What can you walk us through some of the kind of early days though when you first started in kind of IT and software? Like, what was that like as a young? Were you always in sales actually to begin with? Has it always been sales?
Well, interestingly, the first job I had at Quest, who later on were acquired by Dell Software Group, was working in support renewals. So this is before customer success was really a thing.
Okay.
It was also before cloud was really a thing.
Yeah.
So support renewals was based upon making sure that you were renewing the support and maintenance contracts on perpetual licensing agreements.
Okay.
But I had the beautiful job of calling up all of the people who'd forgotten to pay their support and maintenance contracts, but had multiple different product sets. At the time, the organisation had, I think, around 100 different products that they sold to market, but all of the different agreements were not in line. And so my job was to pick up the phone, to call the people that had forgotten about us and get them to reinstate the support and maintenance so they could upgrade to the latest version. Obviously, nowadays you have consistent patching through cloud applications and everything else, but back then it was completely different.
Amazing. And in terms of, so when did you kind of move into your first full kind of sales role, and what did that look like?
About 6 to 9 months after joining Quest.
Okay.
So as you would expect me to say on here, smashed it out of the park. No, but I came in and I managed to renew all of the contracts that were in my domain. And at that point in time, we had an inside sales team which was developing. It was run by a lady called Lindsay Rees. And she came over to me and said, look, we've been watching from afar. We see that you've been hitting your numbers. We'd love for you to come and join the inside sales net new business team as account executive. And really that's where things really took off, because I went in there and did that job for around 18 months, that role for around 18 months. But my focus was always on development, right? I wasn't there just to clock in 9 to 5 and do my job. I saw the people across the organisation that were having super success, and at that point in time it was purely monetary for me, purely monetary. And that's what drove me. And and that was the start of the career, really.
And back then, because you and I are kind of similar ages, I guess, like development was probably a little bit more difficult than it is today. Like things weren't as readily available, like podcasts and all the kind of stuff that you can listen to, and people weren't as free as well, I don't think, with their information. It was almost a bit guarded, if you remember. Like back then, it was like if you told somebody something, you were giving them a shortcut, or it was maybe going to harm your success, which obviously we know that isn't really the case. What did you do, like back then, to develop so quickly?
I think the one thing that one of my mentors told me, and I think this is the most important thing, is surrounding yourself by people that want to see you win. That was really integral to kind of career development, and it's integral to anybody's career development, let's be clear. Whether that's friends or professional mentors or whatever it may be. If you surround yourself by people that want to win, you're going to win. So I think, though, if you look at that, you have to have a personal brand, and your personal brand is, when you're not in the room, what do people talk or think about you? If somebody was to ask a question around Gareth or Oliver when they're not in the room, what would people say? And if you have a great personal brand, that breeds individuals wanting to be a part of you, your ecosystem, your success. But it comes back to the basics, as you know. You have to have a network, and you have to invest in that network. And it's a mutual thing. It's a two-way street. So I think that was, for me, really, really important at an early day. And was also important when I went to kind of Microsoft and SAP and some of the larger organizations that I've had the privilege of working at, is to, again, surround yourself with like-minded individuals that want to see you be successful, but can come with you on that journey, and likewise you on their journey. Yeah,
and I completely agree with that. I think, and life is just so much easier when you're around people that are out to win and see people themselves, you and others succeed, right? I think I've certainly worked in environments where that's not always been the case, where people have been pretty nasty or pretty, always just really negative and almost actually actively want to see people fall, right? Which is pretty brutal when you think about it.
Of course.
Have you ever been in those environments before? Have you, and if so, like, how did you step above it?
I mean, I think those environments are active in most organizations, unfortunately, or also most walks of life, right? Like, I think there are always some individuals or teams of individuals that want to see you fail. And I think one of the things that's really important is not to take that personally. Whatever other individuals or people's perspectives on life or outlooks are, typically they operate out of a position of insecurity. But for me, it was important to be focused on me and what I wanted to achieve, and on the good things, right? Like, if you're worried about other people's opinions and views on a consistent basis, then their perception becomes your reality. And I think what's really, really important is to stay true to what you want to achieve, have clear goals, have clear ambitions, and put the steps in place to achieve those. And it doesn't have to be huge things. It can be micro steps, individual little steps that are mini milestones that you can succeed. And the more and more you do that, the people that want to see you fail around you, they're not relevant anymore, because what really matters is you and you focusing on your guiding compass. I don't know, do you agree with that, or what's been your experience?
No, I do, and I think, as I torpedo quickly towards the age of 40, you've got the benefit. I know, the grey hair wouldn't ever suggest it. What are you laughing at out there? The team are in. So I think you do have the benefit of being able to look back and think, actually, it wasn't worth the worry, it wasn't worth the stress, and definitely I agree with it coming from a position of insecurity on their part. But at the time, it can fucking hurt, right? It can, when people are trying to pull you down or make you feel shit about yourself, or even, I remember people like, you'd be closing deals and people like making fucking like schneid comments about stuff, and you're like, fucking hell, man, let's try to win here together. Like, you know what I mean? This doesn't have to be as ruthless as it is, and I've got some pretty specific memories that have probably served me well as a leader, because it's like I would never allow that kind of environment ever. But it's probably one I maybe needed to go through as an individual to see actually what people can be like. And so because it's probably a little bit not easy, but maybe easier for you and I, because we can maybe look back and say, well, when you're in your 20s, maybe into your early 30s or whatever, like there are going to be people that try and cut you down, and even like now it still happens, right? Of course it does. Do you remember anything that got you through those darker times when things were maybe not going quite to plan, and you were probably thinking, fuck, is this the right option for me? Is this,
I've got something that springs to mind, and actually for me this was a perception thing. So my perception was that this specific individual didn't like me, that they wanted to tear me down, that they challenged everything I did in front of all of my peers, in front of my seniors. But actually, upon reflection now and looking back at it, they were definitely trying to help me. Right. And I was at Microsoft, and I'd never really done a quarterly business review before. I was very new to it. I was in, and some of the people that were actually in this room, you also know. And we had this fearless leader who was numbers driven. But she had very high expectations of everybody around her, including herself. And at the time, I thought she hated me. Honestly, I thought she hated me. I thought she wanted me out. But every single time I stood up, she drilled me on the basics. Yeah. Drilled me. And even if I was slightly off, she made me feel this small. And I really thought, like, okay, I'm going to get fired here. Yeah. I might as well just pack my bags, walk out the room. I'm done. But that environment helped shape and mold some of the key disciplines that I now operate on every single day, and the expectations I now set my team. Right? So if it's around having a territory plan, if it's looking at the basics of sales or marketing in terms of having a very clear plan that's measured and outcome driven, that is backed up by numbers, I don't think I would have ever had that view and that level of focus on it in my current state if I hadn't gone through those dark experiences back then and felt like shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. To be fair, I think I probably went through a relatively similar schooling. And I remember at the time, and it was funny actually, I was telling the team this the other day, as like, you know, I was kind of chatting through some ideas and different things with the whole team, and I was talking them through when, because obviously as a Glaswegian and somebody with a pretty strong accent, especially for maybe our North American friends and colleagues and peers, it can sometimes be difficult for them to absorb all the things I say. Maybe I speak too fast, and it's just my accent can be quite strong at times. So I had to really slow down the pace in which I spoke. So I remember presenting, and then my boss at the time would be like, "Stop! Stop!" Just shout in my ear. Like, I'm like, what have I done? And he'd be like, "You're going too fast. You need to start again." And at the time, I'm like, "Fucking hell, this is savage." But I look back, and you can tell a good story, and you can talk through the team, and a lot of our team obviously are Glaswegian or Scottish or whatever. And it's stuff that I try and support them with, but I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't gone through what at the time felt absolutely brutal, probably borderline, maybe quite right, but I think. But look, I mean, I certainly look back with fond memories, and I can definitely laugh about it. And I won't mention his name, but you know, he certainly schooled me.
Mention his name. Put him out there. No,
yeah, well, his name's Derek, and he's a top guy, and he gave me some of the straight out there. But yeah, so Derek was one of my leaders for a long time. Top guy. He taught me a lot, and especially in terms of, like, he's an Irish guy, you know, with a strong Irish accent. He's one of the funniest guys you would ever meet. But he, you know, and I didn't know if he knows he was helping me at the time, but he certainly schooled me in a way that I remember to this day, and I look back with some real fond memories of that. And hopefully I'm going to be able to do that with my team. Maybe not quite as loud, but but still the lesson is important. And so thinking about, like, obviously where you are today, you know, so I see your schedule. I've got you on Instagram, of course, and LinkedIn and stuff. So I see the amount of travel you're doing, and so running the whole commercial operation for a really interesting company called Wire. So definitely check them out if you're listening. Talk us through like a day in the life of a VP at Wire. I
mean, no day is the same, to be honest with you. I mean, look, last week I was in Amsterdam and in Sweden, meeting with partners that want to deliver a managed service for Wire at scale across Europe, and working with my teams to be able to craft a solution and legal agreements that enable them to scale. This week I'm in Berlin. I'm speaking to you. This morning we had a filming crew in because we're going to be on a Dutch TV show around startups in Europe. Amazing. Those are some of the more kind of fun activities. But I think to look at a day in the life of, you have to rewind back to when I started here, which was in August. And my role was to really come in and focus on four key things: people, process, technology, and enablement. Do we have the right people underpinned by the right processes with the right level of technology and the right level of enablement, both internally, so we had a convicted value prop, as well as externally with the right brand awareness mechanisms to elevate us as a company and educate on what the problem is that we solve. And so if you rewind back to kind of late last year, it was really foundation building, right? Looking at the KPIs, the budget plans, what are we going to do in terms of our hiring or recruitment processes, how do we scale? If you fast forward to where we are now, it's around how the engine started to run. It's now thinking about how do we execute, but continuously optimize. Yes, there's a lot of travel, but one, I enjoy it. You get to go out and you meet some really, really cool people, especially in the partner ecosystem. And there's a continuous ability to learn, right? So the partner that we were with last week had a really, really interesting value prop, a device-based play. they were teaching me things that I'd never heard of before, right? So for me, within my day, there's always still the ability to learn and adopt and to grow, especially when you're looking at different countries and regulations and equally cultural styles.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. And how do you adapt to those cultural styles? But then if you look at it later in this week, I'll be deep diving with the sales teams to look at the forecast and how do we're shaping up for this quarter, right? We've got a couple weeks left, and we need to make sure that we've got the right things in place to set ourselves for success so we can continue to grow into Q3 and Q4. So very different on a weekly basis, from high level strategy all the way down to low level execution and operations.
Yeah. And if you, obviously you're kind of coming up to the 12-month point of being at Wire, like if you kind of look back now with that kind of 9 or 10 months, my maths isn't great. What's been the biggest challenge so far?
Being a Brit in a German company and not speaking German.
Okay, interesting. How have you overcome that?
I think, look, I've got a great team, phenomenal team, and we're building something really, really special. I also think it's around learning when to take the front seat and when to take a back seat and empower your team. Yeah. I think one of the big things that for me in recruitment and building teams is how do you hire people that are more intelligent and smarter than you? If you can build a smart and intelligent team, then one, it makes your life much easier. But for me, it was learning to adapt on where to leverage the strengths of the team that compensate me, and also getting them to kind of listen. So they may go into a customer meeting with somebody in a very senior position in the public sector, Germany, who don't want to see a Brit in that. Right, let's be completely clear. But we do pre-briefings and we look at actually what are the dynamics. And yes, the German public sector is special in its own right. But if you look at the public sector and politics on a national or global level, there are a lot of similarities. And you pick up on old experiences and help and nurture a team to be able to translate those into their conversations, their meetings and engagements with customers, partners and prospects. So it's adapting, I think adapting on your feet, but leveraging the people around you in your team, and I think the team have done a great job.
Nice. And in terms of obviously your role is never the same day to day. What do you enjoy the most? So when you think about like the senior strategic level stuff, you're with the CEO regularly and engaging there, or in the trenches with the troops. What and then I'm sure everything in between. What's your favourite? What do you look forward to the most?
I don't have it. What do I look forward to the most? And this is going to sound corny as hell. I look forward to engaging with the people. Like, it doesn't matter if it's at the C level and working on strategy and what we're looking at doing over the next 3 years, or if it's coaching a BDR who was once I was in their position many years ago, picking up the phone to try and get those renewals that I mentioned. I'm a huge people person. And so my favorite thing is turning up every day, being consistent, and seeing others flourish. That is genuinely what gets me out of bed, is to create an environment where I can stand back and be proud that actually everybody here is also growing, because if they grow, we grow as a company, and so does my career and my success. But I think I come from a sales background. Right, purely a sales background, and I'm now responsible for commercial, which consists of sales, marketing, partnerships, operations, customer success, support, delivery. It's quite a wide array of things, but I come from a sales background. It's always been either in IC or leadership positions up until the last 5-6 years. And so going back to the roots, I love to get into the trenches with the team in front of customers, because equally, just as I said around the team being successful, it's great seeing a value proposition translate to a customer to enable them to achieve their objectives and their goals as well. And I mean, you're a salesman, you've been in sales for many years. The buzz you get coming out of those meetings, or when you close that deal, there's nothing like it.
No, totally agree. and it's an interesting one. So like if you mentioned there, like working with like BDRs or EEs and stuff, and helping support them whether it be move deals forward, maybe even kill off deals that aren't maybe real or whatever it might be. But there'll be people in your team or people you've worked with in the past that will be looking at you thinking, oh, how did I get to that VP level? Like, you know, whether it be for the glamour of Mr. Hollywood OB, getting picked up at his 5-star hotel, being late for the podcast, or but also as well, like, you know, the benefits that come with that, you know, the financial rewards and all that kind of good stuff that you work really, really hard for. Like, is there any like advice that you either already give some of those younger folk or people that are coming behind you, or is there anything that you think of that off the top of your mind that you think would really help people get towards where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe you can relate to this, but a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. It really is. You know, if you show up every single day with consistency, with attitude, and it goes back to the thing I was saying earlier on in this podcast, which is surrounding yourself with the right people, opportunities present themselves. But I think what's really important is to always push yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Many people are presented with opportunities and don't take them for the fear of something. Or
totally.
the fear of not being good enough, or what may happen or what might not happen. And I think that indecisiveness can quite often hold people back from really being able to pursue anything in life, whether it's career or whether it's things outside of work, family related, whatever it may be. So I think first point is it's not what you know, it's who you know, and make sure you have that network. And again, I reiterate that point. And then equally consistently push yourself out of the comfort zone. If I was to reflect on things which have been kind of a paradigm shift or transformational in my life, it's always been stepping outside of my bubble, feeling really uncomfortable, but having a little bit of self-belief, and actually, again, the people around me having belief that I can do it, and then running with it. So for me, it's all about taking the opportunities with both hands, and jumping in 2 feet strong.
Yeah. No.
Do you relate to that? Like, I mean,
100%. I think with both actually, like the networking and who you know piece, like 100%. I think you've got to build relationships. You've got to put the effort in. Like, I think lots of people talk a game, but maybe don't put the effort in, because it is bloody hard. It takes time. It takes years really to build a strong network. And I think, you know, even thinking about how ORRJO started and how we built clients from the start, really, the majority of it's through network referrals, people I've either worked with, have been in my teams before, whatever it might have been, friends, etc., that have kind of trusted me as a person, and then kind of gone from there, and it's kind of grown out of that. And that's taken 10, 15, almost 20 years to build. And I think also helping other people through, like, I think that's a great way to build your network, is not by taking or expecting from others, but actually giving to others. Like, so how could you help someone else? How could you mentor someone, or whatever it might be? Because I just think I'm a big believer in, like, that goodwill, that karma comes back, you know, and I think that can really help. And then the uncomfortable piece, like 100%, because I think loads of people, especially maybe folk that are often a bit younger or what have you, you know, they talk a lot about imposter syndrome and different things, and I'm a big believer that you only really have imposter syndrome when there's something you're trying to do you've never done before, or you've not had the experience to do regularly, so you've not built up that muscle memory or whatever. And so it's a real thing, but it's only a real thing if you've not got the experience to do it. So I think, and the only way that you get past the imposter syndrome, or what tag you want to give it, is by doing things that are not comfortable to you, that are not your norm or whatever. So I think, you've got to roll the dice and some stuff. And the way I always look at it is like, what's the worst that will happen? And if the worst case isn't that bad, then fuck it, give it a go. Like, like what, you know, that's what I would always think. And one of the things,
it's funny just to move on. It's really funny you should say that, because one of the key people that I watched from behind the scenes for many years is Richard Branson. And one of his famous quotes was, you know, if somebody offers you an amazing opportunity but you're not sure you can do it, just say yes and then learn how to do it later.
Yeah.
And like for me, I think it's a way that I've always kind of tried to have a guiding principle in the way that I approach things. I might have an idea on how it's done. It might not be right, it might be wrong, but let's try and find out and not be scared to fail, because a lot of people are scared to fail, right? Especially, like, I mean, look, if you had started ORRJO with a view of, okay, I'm scared to fail, you'd never be where you are now. It's that simple.
100%, and I think like that is how we built it. It's like you say yes to things, we figure the fuck out how to do it. Like afterwards, and what I love, especially as you kind of go through your career and you meet some really amazing people, some really successful people, whether it be financially or from a leadership, whatever it might be. You actually then when you get to know them, you know that they're winging a lot of it anyway. Like everybody's kind of winging it to an extent until they've done it a few times and they're like, yeah, they've kind of now built up the muscle memory or whatever you want to call it. And that's what I love. It's like when you're in your certainly early 20s, maybe mid 20s, or maybe even, I don't know, still maybe in your 30s, I'm not sure. You've got a perception that everybody's nailed it and they're just different. Well, not really. Like they've maybe got some natural talent around maybe how they communicate with people. Maybe that's, I mean, I can communicate with people, but I'm shit at exams, right? So like I failed everything. So, but I can speak to people. So it's like, you know, you've got to pick what fucking tools you want in your toolbox. Do you know what I mean? And you're dealt your hand. It's how you kind of take the best of that and make it the best that it can be. But I think there's always a perception that well, it's all right for them because they've got that. It's like, well, yeah, but have you looked at where they've come from? Or like Richard Branson, how many things he's tried and he's failed, but he's always just had that eternal optimism to keep going and stuff. And that's typically what gets people through. It was interesting actually. You wrote something on LinkedIn, and I'm going to read it verbatim because if not, I'll make a bollocks of it. So success isn't about outperforming your peers; it's about out delivering your potential. Yeah. What did you mean by that?
I think I said it earlier on in the podcast, right? Which was like, how have I tried to focus all of my efforts on my career? And you talked around, you know, people that want you to fail and and how do you overcome it? You have to be focused on the mini milestones, right? And you have to have a belief of self-confidence, and that self-confidence comes from failing. It doesn't come from being success. And I know this is cliche as hell. You can see it on every meme on Instagram or anywhere you look, but you know, failure helps you breed success. And so for me, what's also a very interesting quote is progress, not perfection. If you're constantly moving in the right direction and you're not focusing on being the perfect individual, the perfect person, and you're driving with trial and error, there's always room for improvement. But if you're heading in the right direction, then, and you look back, it's an amazing to see what you've achieved. Like I speak to my CEO on a daily basis about 10 times a day. And most of the time we're talking around speed, right? We're not going fast enough. We need to optimize here. How do we do this quicker? What can we do to change? And we're always pessimistic when we're in those conversations. But when you zoom out and you actually look at, okay, from August to where we are now in June, nearly July last year, we've moved mountains. We've moved mountains. And it's very easy to get stuck in the day-to-day where you're looking at the numbers or you're looking at the mini milestones, which are really important. When you zoom back out, it's amazing to see actually what you've achieved. And so one of the things I always recommend people that I either mentor or are part of my team is look at over the last 3 months. Have you zoomed out? Have you looked at actually what you've achieved? Because it might not feel it right now, and you and I might be having a very difficult conversation that might be challenging you. But if you reflect, you've actually moved mountains. So I think for me, it's a way that I kind of try and live my life anyway. But that's all around out delivering your potential. The potential is only within the confines of what you make it. And if you step out of your comfort zone, you're not scared to fail and all of these other things, and you reflect, you have good people, network, etc., you're doing the right things. And not everybody is equal, right? Let's be clear. We like to live in a world where everybody says we're equal, but you said something that's really, really true. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different walks of life. We've had different experiences, different hardships. different obstacles we've had to overcome, and they shape you for the good or for the bad. But I like to look at, you know, challenges that you've gone through and have an optimistic view and fuel that for me to have something to drive towards, which is a great life for my friends, my family, and everybody that I work with. And, you know, from us being friends, I like to have fun.
Yeah.
Right? If we're not having fun whilst doing it, what's the point?
What's the fucking point? No, I completely agree. And it's interesting. So, like, we're obviously approaching the kind of half point of most companies' years, right? So, like, the end of Q2, there's going to be some people in your shoes, right? Whether VP of Commercial, CRO, or what have you, right? That will be probably, they're maybe not where they need to be, right? They're not, maybe whether it be on target or whatever, right? And it's interesting, you mentioned there, like, obviously I know you've got a great relationship with your CEO, and I love that obviously he's talking about how do you know, move, I'm sure you're both talking about it a lot, about how do you move at pace, but actually when you zoom out, you're able to see the kind of how far you've come. How do you, I guess, approach that conversation with your CEO if you don't, if you're okay to answer? And the reason I'm keen to understand is, like, that's probably a conversation other people need to have that's maybe with somebody that's maybe not as understanding as your CEO is, about the looking at the last 10 months and saying, geez, right, yeah, you guys actually have moved mountains. But do you know what I mean by that? Like if like they're approaching the half year and they're not where they need to be, maybe they're at like 50 or 60% to target, or even worse, but actually what they've done over the last 6 or so months has been incredible. From where they began. Like, how do you have that conversation with somebody at the very top to hopefully try and get them on the same page as you?
So there's something that I talk about, whether it's at the top level with our CEO or with an individual contributor in sales, marketing, support, whatever it may be. And it's actually one of the 5 pillars that we have as a commercial team, which is we're high performance. Well, what does high performance mean? You have to look at performance versus result. If you look at any sports, but let's take it to football, in a post-match interview, you never hear the players talking about the result. If it's 2-0, 1-0, 3-0, a draw, whatever it may be, they don't talk about the result. The result is what the result is. Mm-hmm. They reflect on the performance that got them that result. Mm-hmm. They're constantly looking and analysing what went right, what went wrong. Was it individual? Was it team? Was it environment? Was it the weather? Like, what was it? What were the conditions of that performance? Because if you can understand the performance, you can then start to improve or increase or reduce the result. And so what I always look at is the performance, not the result, because the result will always be that. And I think you started off the conversation with, you know, we're mid-year, some people aren't going to be at target, some people will be above target. And you then, let's focus on the low performers for a moment in terms of the result. Are they setting themselves up for future success, but the success today and the here and now is not there? Quite possibly, if they are doing the basics, if they are following the processes, if they're committed to what they're doing, if they show up every single day and they have input and they add value and they're trying their best, for me that's performance. Mm-hmm. And the result may then be, in 6 to 12 months' time, they built a fantastic pipeline. If we're thinking about a sales individual, then next year they're going to blow the number out of the park. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a balancing act of all the time, which is here and now expectations versus the future expectations. But the principle remains the same. It's not about the result, it's around the performance.
And how do you then report that upstream to the board? In this, because I'm just really curious to understand, like, because I know how close you are to the board and stuff, and like if performance is there, maybe the numbers aren't there. How do you approach that?
Because I think, and you know this from yourself, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts as well in a moment. If you're doing the right things consistently, and you are trying your hardest and you are pushing through the barriers, you're always going to come across challenges. But the result will come. Right? And let's just focus on sales for a moment. Mm-hmm. Sales is a numbers game. It really is, and I know everybody says it, but it's a numbers game, and it's about activity and doing the right activity at the right time with the right people at the right place. So that's really important. But to answer the question at the top and the board level, it's around setting the right expectations at every level. Let me just shut this door, sorry.
Sure. It's a nice lamp as well in the background.
Hey, what, the lamp that I wasn't sure whether or not we put in?
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's expectation setting. Where I have seen people fail in senior positions is where they set the wrong expectations. Yeah. I always under-promise and over-deliver. That's the way that I look at it. I go into the board meeting saying, look, here's what we've got in commit, probable, and upside. Here's what the budget forecast is looking like. Look, this is the return on investment numbers. Here's our cost of acquisition, and we go through all of the metrics. But I'm always looking at it in terms of reality and challenging back to say, okay, your expectation of me is to deliver X, Y, Z. That's great, but this is where we are right now, and we've got a journey to go on. How can you help support us if you want me to accelerate that? So for me, it's expectation setting across the board, whether it's senior level or for junior individuals who are still just learning their first steps in their career.
No, I completely agree with that. I think expectation versus like reality, isn't it? It's and I think it's been able to communicate that really openly and clearly, and sometimes. Because there'll definitely be individuals that will just unfortunately not listen as well. Like, that we'll probably all at times work with senior leaders that are like, yeah, we get it, but we don't care. We still want the result. And and that's sometimes where it's just maybe not alignment or not fit or whatever. I guess that's the hard thing. But I think I also agree completely with your point around you've also got to push back, managing upstream to senior leadership or board or whoever, it's not a one-way traffic. It should be back and forth, because that's how they get better, by taking the insights we get from the teams and vice versa. And I think the best senior leadership teams that I've seen are those that are open to listening and understanding what's going out in the real world, rather than just sitting there on a high horse demanding something this may be just completely unrealistic, and I think that's really important that you're able to have those conversations. And I think sometimes if people aren't able to, I guess, tactically have those conversations, then there's probably an alignment issue with are you in the right organisation?
Are you in the right? You just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to try and finish your sentence. Are you in the right organisation? Does it align with you, your values, where you are? Let's go back to the environment you said earlier, where they were kind of shouting at you to slow down or whatever that was. I mean, right there and then, it may not have felt like it was the right environment for you, but you just said you learned a hell of a lot out of it. And I think you've got learning experiences across every avenue and around every corner. But I think you do know in here, with that kind of internal intuition or conviction, whether you are in the right place or the wrong place at the right time, and being misaligned. And you quite often, and I've worked in organisations where the senior leadership team have sat in an ivory tower, and they've led by rule and the iron fist, go and do this, with zero listening or context. But if you look at where those individuals and those organisations now are, they're not in the mainstream, and they're not successful. So I think the world's changed, right? You've got different generations in companies now, from millennials to Gen Zs, etc., and their way of looking at life is so fundamentally different to ours. And at the end of the day, we have to educate the youth of tomorrow, today, and the way that they approach things is so different to maybe somebody that's in the latter stages of their career who take a different approach to business or to culture at a company.
And it's an interesting point there. Like, what do you think the next generation of leaders need to be thinking about? So as I say, they are coming from different generations and stuff, which feels really old. But what do you think the next gen need to be thinking about, moving into becoming leaders in today's world?
I think culture matters more than most.
Yeah.
You can have a great product, you can have a great product market fit, you can have a great strategy.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a culture that breeds fun, engagement, and focuses on execution, I don't think you'll survive the tide, because people operate in a completely different way nowadays, right? Like hybrid working. Yeah, I mean we talk about it for years, but people now demand that flexibility, and there are a lot of people that now, since the world's returning back and they want people in the office, are really rigid with that, and that is going to affect you attracting top talent who like to work. Sorry. That was a wire call coming through.
Is that a wire call? I was wondering that.
That was a wire call coming through. Who like to work autonomously, and like to work from different countries, but still are highly productive because they're working the way that they want to work. So I think we have to adapt. You know, the world that we live in, and it's a nice bridge to wire. A wire again. It's a nice bridge to wire, which is, you know, we try and provide a platform and a solution that enables people to communicate and collaborate across the world in a highly secure way. And I think that has to be at the heart of anybody's strategy: collaboration, culture, and communication.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I think it's a funny one. Like, I mean, well, at ORRJO, obviously, culture's been something that I've thought about since day one, really, when I was on my own, trying to have my own culture myself. Like, there's only so much you can do, but like, it's something that we invest a lot of time, effort, money into to create that, and I think it is what often makes companies different, isn't it? That's usually the competitive edge, I think, is the team, rather than, like you said, just the product market fit, whatever. It's that execution, which is very difficult to, you either often have it or you don't. And see, just on, obviously a lot of people now kind of demanding working from home or having that hybrid work. We offer a bit of hybrid, more so office based, I have to say. Like we do a lot of stuff in person. We're kind of an office first company, really. A little bit different because we're not maybe spread across different geographies and different things, so it's maybe a little bit easier for that. And it's definitely also, I think, given us an edge being able to do that, because the communication is often a lot easier, because it's, you know, a 1 minute conversation rather than a 1 hour like chat. Do you know what I mean? It can often be, and there's obviously a lot of companies now trying to pull people back to offices. Any issues you see with that? Any challenges you see companies are going to face, or do you also believe in that kind of that face-to-face element as well?
I'm going to answer this with you can't beat human connection.
Yeah, agree.
You can't.
No.
Like, we're humans, we live to connect with people. It's part of our DNA. Yeah, you might be an introvert, you might be more extroverted, but either way, human connection is so important to our way of life. Yeah. Forget work for a moment, way of life. I ask my leadership team and most of the people in my org to be in the office at least once a week. Yeah. Once a week, once a month, sort of thing. So we're all here together, and usually we wrap that around, you know, an update. Different members of the team start to provide updates on what they're doing and how we can work together, because we have an integrated go-to-market, which is really, really important for what we do. And then we go out and we have fun. Yeah. You know, we go have a few beers, we go do an activity. We went and did an escape rooms the other week in Berlin, which was really, really good fun. So yeah, I think it's still important to have the human touch and to have people in the office. And I think some of the challenges with remote working is, especially when you have maybe some core integral members to the organization, where they're in the office on a regular basis, the coffee machine chats, or they call it the water cooler chats in the US, those things really, really do come in handy when you're building relationships. Yeah. And it comes back to our very first point in the podcast today, which is what has set you up for success. It's having a network. It's having people around you. Yeah. And you can only really do that so much in a digital world. Yeah. There's a guy that works for me in product marketing. He's based in San Francisco. And we had an okay relationship on a working level, but we went to a Gartner conference in Barcelona in November last year, and we spent a week together. And at the end of that week, we were working and having fun, and we really knew each other. Our relationship completely changed.
Yeah.
And now, I've not seen him since November last year, but the connection that we made during that week in Barcelona has changed the way that we work together.
Yeah.
It's matured it. So for me, it's still important, whether, remote working, hybrid working, you still need to make time and invest into people in the company and the culture that you work in.
No, and I do agree. And I think the challenge a lot of people will face, I believe, especially like the younger generation, is that, and I've said this before, like probably a lot of people will lose opportunities, like maybe like promotional opportunities, leadership roles, whatever it might be, because they're just not seen as much. And people don't know what they could potentially bring to the party, or bring to the role, or bring to the company. And so I think a lot of people, by choosing to only be remote, will probably, I think, ultimately limit themselves in where they could have gone in a more human-led kind of interaction, kind of from that perspective. So no, it's interesting. And in terms of, I'm conscious of your time, Mr. Hollywood. So that's what we're going to tag this as, aren't we? So in terms of, I know like development is something that's critical to you. It's something you've obviously always been passionate about. Anything in particular, any like podcasts you listen to that you recommend, any books that you'd recommend to anyone that you've been listening to recently?
I wish I could come here and be super inspirational and say, I've read this book and it's changed my life. But honestly, I was
hoping you'd have it on your t-shirt. Like,
no, I've got a beer barrel on my t-shirt here. Honestly, I genuinely don't have time for that at the moment. I've got 2 kids, which outside of work are full-time, full-on, and I work around the clock, different time zones. My personal life and development stuff is taken a back seat for the moment. So no, honestly, I would love to be able to say, read this book or watch this series.
I love the honesty, mate. No, that's all.
I don't have time for it at the moment, unfortunately.
No, I know you're an incredibly busy man, and obviously with Wire, can you send anyone to tell us the Wire website if anybody wants to check out what you guys do?
www.wire.com.
Unreal.
So, really, really simple.
I wish there was like a / ORRJO Unscripted so we could see if we get any demo things from it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd definitely be on the payroll for that. But obviously, look, definitely recommend linking up with you on LinkedIn, following the journey and stuff. You do post a lot, you share a lot. Obviously, our team have been heavily involved with some of the events you guys have been running as well, which they've thoroughly enjoyed, which has been awesome. So, OB, thank you very much for the time, mate. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Even though you were 15 minutes late.
Quickly before you wrap, a big shout out to Dylan and Lucy on your team, because they spotted us at the FIFA event a couple of weeks back, and we were chaotic, running around all over the shop trying to talk to customers, but they came in integrated, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the content that they produce. So
unreal. That should be wrapped up pretty soon. Yeah, Dylan's here just now, so yeah, I'll pass that on as well to Lucy. I really appreciate the feedback. I know the guys will as well. So yeah, look, thank you very much, mate, and we'll chat again soon. Next time, probably in the pub over Guinness.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. You've been promising me that for months.
I know, mate. I know. I'll definitely be down with the microphone and the camera soon. All right, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Take care, buddy.